A cyber attack has compromised at least 4 internet service providers via a popular management tool, a new SonicWall vulnerability, Google issues a patch for its 10th zero-day of the year, and a surprising update on the National Public Data Hack. Welcome to Cybersecurity Today. I'm your host, Jim Love. A sophisticated cyber attack campaign exploiting a zero-day vulnerability has successfully targeted at least 4 internet service providers. This attack, attributed to Chinese state-sponsored actors, exploits a critical vulnerability in a popular network management platform used by ISPs. The vulnerability, CVE 2024-39717, affects Versa Director, a system crucial for managing complex network infrastructure. This zero-day is an unsanitized file upload vulnerability and allows for the injection of malicious Java files. Compounding the issue, these files are able to run on Versa systems with elevated privileges. The hackers initially gained access through port 4566, typically used for high-availability pairing between Versa nodes. They then established longer HTTPS connections over port 443, masquerading as legitimate traffic. And the attackers install a custom web shell called Versa Mem, which grants remote administration control of affected systems. Notably, this malware operates entirely in memory, evading detection by major antivirus and endpoint protection platforms. To further obfuscate their activities, the attackers route their intrusions through compromised home and small office routers. This tactic has been a recurring issue. In January, the FBI had to secretly send commands to hundreds of such routers to remove similar malware left by Chinese hackers. Versa patched the vulnerability Monday after Lumen privately reported it earlier. All versions of Versa Director prior to 22.1.4 are affected. But researchers at Black Lotus Labs discovered that the hackers had been exploiting this flaw since at least June 12, 2024. Further, the campaign has successfully infiltrated at least 4 U.S.-based ISPs, allowing the attackers to capture customer login credentials before encryption. ISPs and network administrators are strongly advised to update their systems and thoroughly check for signs of compromise. There's a link to the Versa blog in the show notes for today's show. SonicWall has issued a critical patch for a vulnerability affecting its Firewall products. This flaw, if exploited, could allow unauthorized access to these devices, potentially compromising network security for many organizations. The vulnerability, identified as CVE 2024-40766, has been assigned a critical severity score of 9.3 out of 10. It's described as an improper access control bug in the SonicWall SonicOS management interface. This issue affects multiple generations of SonicWall firewalls, including Gen 5, Gen 6, and some Gen 7 devices running older versions of SonicOS. The company has released patched versions for affected devices and recommends immediate patching. For users unable to apply the patch immediately, SonicWall advises restricting firewall management access to trusted sources or disabling WAN management access from the Internet. While there's no evidence of this vulnerability being exploited in the wild, the potential risk is significant. This incident highlights a concerning trend, however. Threat actors, particularly those linked to China, are increasingly targeting edge infrastructure like firewalls and VPN appliances. For instance, last year, a China-linked group known as UNC 4540 was found exploiting unpatched SonicWall appliances to deploy malware and maintain long-term access to compromised networks. More recently, another China-associated group called Velvet Ant was discovered using its zero-day exploit against Cisco switch appliances to spread a new hybrid malware. Google has released an emergency security update for its Chrome browser to address an actively exploited zero-day vulnerability discovered in the browser. The latest vulnerability, tracked as CVE 2024-7965, has been assigned a high severity score of 8.8 out of 10, and it's described as an inappropriate implementation issue within Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine, a critical component responsible for executing JavaScript code. Now, Google acknowledges that this vulnerability, along with another identified as CVE 2024-7971, is already being exploited in the wild. However, the company has withheld specific details about these attacks to prevent further exploitation while users update their browsers. The security researcher known as The Dog reported this flaw on July 30th, 2024. Google promptly addressed it with the release of Chrome version 128.0.6613.84/.85 for Windows and Mac OS and 128.0.6613.84 for Linux. You can check those numbers in the show notes. This incident marks the 10th zero-day vulnerability in Chrome this year, following a string of other critical flaws including type confusion issues, out-of-bounds memory access problems, and after-use-free vulnerabilities. Many of these were discovered during security events like Pwn to Own 2024. The frequency of these high-severity vulnerabilities highlights the intense focus of malicious actors on web browsers as an attack vector. It's a good reminder to keep browsers updated with the latest security patches. And users are strongly advised to update their Chrome browsers immediately to the latest version to protect against potential exploitation of this vulnerability. Something that you may have missed in the ongoing saga of the National Public Data (NPD) breach, revealing deeper security issues within the consumer data brokerage industry. NPD, which recently suffered a breach exposing hundreds of millions of American sensitive data, literally billions of records including social security numbers, is now linked to another security lapse where someone may have left a password to the site exposed to the internet. Krebs on Security reported that they discovered that a sister company of NPD operating the background check service recordscheck.net inadvertently exposed its database passwords on its public website. The recordscheck.net website was found hosting an archive file named members.zip, which contains source code and plain text credentials for the site's administration. This file was publicly accessible until August 19th, just before the story broke. And further investigation revealed that many records check users were assigned the same 6-character initial password, with many failing to change it as instructed. The breach tracking service Constella Intelligence noted that these exposed passwords matched those from previous breaches involving NPD's founder Salvatore Verini. When contacted, Verini confirmed the removal of the exposed archive and announced the imminent shutdown of the recordscheck.net service. He described the exposed file as containing outdated, non-functional code and passwords. And that's our show. You can find the show notes with links at technewsday.com or .ca, and you can reach me at editorial@technewsday.ca. And a note for fans of Howard Sullivan, Howard has a story on technewsday.com or .ca. Take your pick. And it's about the CrowdStrike episode and lessons learned. Fans of Howard, or anybody just interested in the topic, may want to check it out. I'm your host, Jim Love. Thanks for listening.